you hear a lot of people say, oh no, like Americans are not interested in learning foreign languages, and the reality is that no, they are, but they just needed the right tool on something that can really help them communicate, because they're not trying to learn the general Spanish, right? They're not getting ready to travel to Mexico, Latin America, or Spain. They're like, no, we're here, and I have this need to communicate with them right now where I am, and that's where we came in and said, oh, we can meet your needs with these tools, and we do it this way.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I think we're all in for a treat with today's guest, Oscar R. García, the president and CEO of Need to Say. And Oscar is a master of linguistics, ESL instructor turned entrepreneur, because I know that we've spoken on this show so many times about how innovation is the mother of necessity, right? And so it's or an outcome, right, of necessity, of meeting a need. And sometimes that seems like very like obscure or ambiguous. And so today we're going to see how that is implemented or happens in real life with like a tangible solution to a big problem. And Oscar, welcome. I feel like I should have like tambourines because we've been trying to reconnect post pandemic, right? And I'm just so happy to see you today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Sammy. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
No, it's an honor for me. I know that we connected through LinkedIn almost, I want to say 2.5 years ago, and started talking. And then, like everybody else, the pandemic, put a huge wedge into, anything that was starting, because it's like, okay, now we need to like put out fires and focus on community and really address bigger existential needs, right? But here we are, and I'm very, very excited because this is really important work. I mean, what you do, and I want to hear about your background and how you converted, right, your expertise in English as a second language, instruction and linguistics, and really understanding the importance of empowering people through language into creating the need to say, and I'm just gonna talk about it. I'm just gonna, how do you say, anchor this conversation in what is the need to say app. It
Absolutely.
basically provides construction workers, right, with second language skills, OSHA awareness training, and tools to track their progress in English
Yes.
language, right? And so
Yes.
the end goal is to improve the construction industry because it's unsafe, right? If
Yeah.
there's no, if communication is broken on the
The-
work site. And so instead of leaving it up to, employers or just one particular group, you want to empower the people who are mostly infected, which is construction workers, because they're the ones doing the work. And I just want to say congratulations because you just won the pitch competition at the Eureka Fest 2022. And I
yes.
want to hear all about it. So
Absolutely.
please take it away and tell me first, right, how your love for languages and, your career, in
Absolutely.
the language learning space began.
Absolutely. So I would have to go back to the 1980s, where when I was born. Because I was one of those kids that grew up without their dad. Because my father, he used to come to the U.S., work for 6 months, 8 months, and then go back to Mexico and stay there the rest of the year. And so I grew up with that, and it was always, always had the question of where is my dad, and so my mom would say, well, he's working, he's doing this, and I just didn't understand, and so that's when I remember back in the 88 in 1988. I was 8 years old, and I had these questions of, okay, so why my dad has to go to California to work, and so I didn't understand those things. And I remember that each year some of my cousins used to visit us from California to our town in Mexico, and I was like, what is English? What is this language, right? And that was the beginning of me, in a way, some sort of like falling in love with the language, and wanting to learn. Fast forward in 2010, that's when I had this dream for years, for decades, of me wanting to go to graduate school here in the US, do something here in the US. And I couldn't do it before because my dad had this idea of, no, like, you guys are gonna grow up in Mexico, you're gonna do all these things in Mexico, and that's gonna be it. And I just didn't understand that, because I was like, but dad, like, the US looks amazing, and from the movies, right? Because that's everything I knew from the US came from the movies. And he was like, no, you don't understand. And so in 2010, I decided to come here to grad school, like I said. And I had already graduated with a bachelor's in linguistics, because again, it was all this dream of doing something related to language. And so I came, and the university of choice was the University of Alabama at Birmingham, because I had a family member that moved from California to Alabama years ago. And that's how I ended up in Alabama. And something that really got me when I started to live in the US, is that I finally understood what my dad wanted to tell me for all these years. And he wanted to tell me, most of us immigrants don't live in good areas in the US. Most
Mhm.
of us immigrants have all these challenges and issues and things, and one of the main barriers is the language barrier. And
Mhm.
I did not understand, I just did not understand that before. So when I came and I saw all of people from Mexico and Latin America, having all these issues, and then at the same time, all of these stereotypes, right? Because you will see someone fixing the roof of a house, but you never see a conversation between the owner of the house and the guy who's working there. And so what happens is that the person, the owner of the house, goes into the house, turns on the TV, watches the news, and learns about the guy doing the work from the television set, but not really directly from the guy. And so I'm going through all of these things and thinking, oh my goodness, like, my dad, it was one of these guys working 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. He was never able to learn the language, because he used to tell me, I wish I could speak English. I wish I could do
Oh my
this.
God.
I would have so many, a lot of opportunities. And so for me,
Oh
it
my
was a
God.
no-brainer. I was like, oh my God, I need to do something about this. And I ended up even giving a TED talk about this issue, because I just saw all of these issues, all of these problems. And again, going back, for me, it was the language barrier. And Sammy, when I first started, need to say, in 2019, in my mind, because at this point I had already been teaching for years ESL throughout the U.S. and Mexico, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this for international students, foreign professionals, because I need this and so on. So, but then after a while, I was like, wait, like, I used to volunteer at a local library, and I started to have construction workers and also women in construction, and I was like, oh, and they used to share with me some of their experiences, and that women, for instance, in construction, they say, we're being harassed every day, this is happening to us, and then the men, like, we have injuries and things. So I spoke with my team at the end of 2019, and I said, guys, you know what, we're gonna pivot because international students, they're at colleges and universities, they have resources, they can make friends, right? Foreign professionals, they have, again, resources, money, they can do things, they can hire someone. But when it comes to construction workers, they have none of those. And
Hmm.
also, nobody from Silicon Valley all the way to Georgia, for instance, to Alabama, nobody is doing anything for them, right? And I said, we're going to pivot. So as soon as we decided to pivot, Sammy, the first thing that we learned is that every year more than 1,500 Latin American construction workers die each year.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
and what I read from OSHA is that there are a lot of these incidents or deaths that go unreported because the majority of these people are undocumented. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so that's when we decided to pivot, and we changed the content of the app. We were getting ready to pilot the app in March of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and then boom, the pandemic hit. We couldn't do anything, and
I
that's
know.
when, and that's around that time. I think months later, that's when we met, and so we
Yes.
were going through the storm, trying to figure out if what was going to happen, because construction companies, even if they were essential business, they were like, no, we're busy, we can't talk to you right now. And that's during the time when we met, remember?
Yes. Oh, I totally remember. And can I tell you, I didn't know the story about your dad, and it's so moving, because he was trying to protect you, you
Yes.
know,
it, it,
but
I thank
oh
my dad now, Sammy. Before, to be
yeah,
honest, I didn't understand that before,
yeah,
and so now, for instance, now that I am in California, and that I
yeah.
am now where near to where he used to work, because he came here when he was 12, and so
Wow.
now I get it, because he used to tell me, you don't understand, like, kids grow up by themselves because parents are busy, things like this,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
But
amazing.
look what he did though, right? The sacrifice that he did for you,
Yes,
that he was able to work and then pour all of these resources into his son. I mean, that's another, right? He protected you by giving
yes,
you, right?
exactly.
Access to education and to
Yes,
opportunities, right? And oh
yes,
my God,
yes,
I can't even take it. I'm trying to really contain my emotions because it's such a beautiful thing, right? And then
yes,
now, the pandemic put a big pause on a lot of things, right? But when greatness is present, right? Because what you're doing is extraordinary, okay? Then it's gonna cut through, right? I mean, there was no doubt in my mind when we first met a couple of years ago, right? That it was gonna cut through when things kind of cleared up. And could you explain? Because I know that you were just starting, and I was like fascinated about what the app did. I don't know if it
yes,
changed, so I'm curious to hear where you landed, right? From that initial concept,
yes,
because it really provides a lot of visual,
yes,
auditory,
yes,
and instructional support, right? To
yes,
construction workers, about how to pronounce, how to recognize, right, words that have to be, that's occupational terminology,
Yes.
that you need to know what it is when you're on a construction site, right? It's not conversational, I mean, some of that, but it's really
Yeah.
occupational applied language. So describe what people experience when they're using the app.
Absolutely. So what people can do with the app, and our goal is to really help them speak the language. We did not want it to come up with just another translator, right? There are many out there, and we were not trying to do the same. We're actually trying to help them speak the language. And so the what we call the beta or the MVP of that app, what it looked like is that people could just go and just open the app. And so one of the things they could do, they could either, and I'm going to try to show it to you here. Let's see if it let me. So they can either just search for a certain word or phrase that they're trying to say, or they can go over the content. And so on the content of the app, so we have OSHA content, construction, you name it. All of this content comes from construction workers when they're searching for something. As they search for a word, a phrase, idiom, whatever, the app it's getting that, and we're adding new things. So for instance, let's say that you're a construction worker and you're trying to say this, so you're gonna see a video like this, and I'm gonna show it to you here. Please wear a hard hat. Please wear a hard hat. So what we have, it's very technical. So we have, in the construction industry, they have all this, technical words and phrases from OSHA and different things that they need to learn. And so what is happening right now, Sammy, with construction workers is that they're saying things like, there's floor opening. There's a floor opening. There starts, with words, and then they put that into a sentence, and then they're saying those things, and now construction companies are like, wow, like they're communicating. And what construction companies are saying is, for many decades we have been trying to do something for the Hispanic or Latin American community, because we know that we have a lot of issues with that, with the language barrier. And so
Yeah.
uh, we did not want it just to be just another translator or something else. We actually wanted to do that. And one of the best things that is happening right now is that the users that we have, they're parents, they're not just construction workers. And so they're saying to us now, last week I had this conversation with my son's teacher,
Mm.
and wow. And last week, I started helping my child with homework, and
Mm.
just to see that, we did not know that was going to go that far, because now
Right.
they're feeling confident, they're feeling empowered. And so right now, after, like you said, after 2 years of doing this and trying to make it happen, so what we're doing is that we're getting ready to launch the new version of the app, I guess, the new features that we have come up with, because we know that in the construction industry, mental health, it's a big issue, right? And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, this is mental health a month, the month of May. And so
Yes.
what we're doing is that we are creating this mental health videos specially designed for our Latin American construction
Mm.
workers. So we're doing that, and we're also creating OSHA content. It's like OSHA awareness content for our people, in a way that they understand that through our culture, and it's a completely different way. And in addition to the new features of the app, and what they can use day to day, it's something completely different from what we currently have.
Yeah,
So we're
but
excited.
it's like yeah, that's awesome
Yes,
because you've identified areas, right, of need again, right? Lack of
yes,
resources, right, that can support a full experience, enrichment experience for the
Yes.
construction worker in this case, and actually knowing that they're, being able to engage in different facets of their family's lives, right? Like
Yes.
speaking to the teacher, like doing
Yes.
homework with the kids, you know, supporting them from a mental wellness standpoint,
Yes.
is also really good because it just helps strengthen, right?
Yes.
The family ties and their personal experiences, not just their professional experiences. I think it's just absolutely incredible. And I could see, right, the direct correlation with being able to say opening in the floor, meaning be
Yes.
careful because
Yes.
someone can fall and hurt themselves, right?
Exactly.
To mitigate risk,
Yes.
to tragedies, not only risk for the workers, but also for anybody that's on the construction site, right?
Yes.
And to find efficiencies also in getting the job and accelerating, right, the completion of your job, the
Yes.
quality of the job, right, customer
Yes.
satisfaction. I mean, it just
Yes.
impacts every single facet, right, of conducting business in the construction space.
Yes. Yes. And it goes also, yes. So yeah, productivity, all of those, different aspects. And throughout, I guess since last year we have talked a lot about diversity and inclusion, right?
Hmm.
So this is the time for the construction industry to do something related to diversity and inclusion to their construction workers, because close to 70% of their workers are from Latin America. The majority, actually the majority of them, right? So it's time for professional development, for things that all of these workers need. But it goes beyond that, because we also have a lot of Americans learning Spanish for the construction industry. And this is one of the parts where I was surprised, because I remember having this conversation with like 20 um, uh, American construction workers, and I said, are you interested in learning Spanish? And you should have seen their reaction. They were like, absolutely, we want to learn Spanish, and we have a lot of them learning Spanish for the construction industry, which it makes me feel just even more motivated than before, because I did not know that they were going to be interested.
That is fantastic. So you're talking about English speakers, right, in the
Yes.
construction industry that are
Yes.
also interested in learning Spanish. And you know what? I got to tell you, it makes all the sense of the world if you're on the job site and you see a compañero, right, a colleague,
Yes.
right, a fellow
Yes.
construction worker, and there's, let's say, for example, a beam, right,
Yeah.
for you to say, watch out for the beam, but then also to be able to say, if the person didn't capture that, cuidado con la viga, right,
Yes. Yes.
and so it just provides another layer of safety.
And
It,
connection, Sammy, because
it,
some of the American construction workers have said to us, "I've been working with Pedro for years. I did not know he was married. I did not know he had children. I did not know his grandmother passed away a few months ago." And they're like, this connection world to us, because we there's no doubt they're great people. They're doing all this work, but not knowing any of these things was really, really, really sad for us, because I always wanted to communicate. I always wanted to make the connection. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like magic. It's like you have like a little wand, right?
Yeah.
It's
Who would have
which is
thought? Like, who would have thought, to be honest, who would have thought, like, American construction workers wanting to learn Spanish? That's amazing, because you hear a lot of people say, oh no, like Americans are not interested in learning foreign languages, and the reality is that no, they are, but they just needed the right tool on something that can really help them communicate, because they're not trying to learn the general Spanish, right? They're not
Mhm.
they're not getting ready to travel to Mexico, Latin America, or Spain. They're like, no, we're here, and I have this need to communicate with them right now where I am, and that's where we came in and said, oh, we can meet your needs with these tools, and we do it this way. Speaking of innovation, right? So that's when you innovate by meeting those needs, by solving a problem, right? That's when innovation comes in.
Yes, totally. And that's why the app is so appropriately named Need to Say, because it's
Yes,
just like at that particular moment, this I need to say this one thing, right? And so
exactly.
then you don't need like a whole hour class. Yeah, you just need
Yeah,
to solve the problem at hand, and it's that language barrier. And can I
exactly.
tell you something? I know that you mentioned diversity and inclusion, but this is also part of providing equitable access. This is
Yes,
all about, actually, mostly
exactly.
about equity, because I think one of the, based on where you were born, right? Like you pop into this world, we've said this so many times, right? And so then you're like, and here I am, and
Yes,
based on where I landed, right, and which family I was born
yes,
into, right, I have
yes,
certain set of advantages or disadvantages. And language, a
yes,
language barrier,
yes,
prevents people to have equitable access to the same opportunities as someone that does not have, right, the language
yes,
barrier.
yes,
So
yes,
this gives also construction workers, right, that opportunity to grow, in their careers in the construction industry, maybe, transfer or assume, bigger opportunities, that they're fully capable of taking on. It's just that because of the language barrier, right, and the lack of confidence sometimes that comes with that, you
yes,
know
yes,
they don't go for it, or just stay quiet, keep their nose down, do the job,
yes,
and
yes,
say, this is not afforded to me, right?
yes,
I'm not gonna ever be able to achieve, anything in terms of career advancement beyond what I'm currently doing.
yes,
And that's not the case. Something as simple as having access to a resource like Need to Say can transform the lives, right, of workers.
yes. What I typically, what I share with construction companies and people in general is that construction workers have dreams. They also have dreams, and sometimes it's just easy for us to think, oh, they're just construction workers, and it's like, no, they have desires, they have aspirations, and so many of them, they have shared with me and said, Oscar, I want to be able to read blueprints because I've been doing this job for more than a decade. I know how to do it, but just because I don't know how to read blueprints, I cannot, climb the ladder in a way, like get a better salary, get a better job. And the majority of them, they like what they do. They like what they do. They want to stay in the construction industry, and especially right now where it's so difficult to find to hire people for the construction industry. And so you have all of these people that are not just willing but capable of learning all these different trades and things. So what, it's easier for construction companies to say, no, we'll support you because we know that you're going to stay here, you're going to do this job right for the rest of your life pretty much. So we want to support you so that we can grow as a country. All of us, we can grow and just keep making the entire country better for all of us, right? So that's really what motivates us to keep building this and to keep doing it for the construction industry.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned something that triggered this thought, and it's that, a lot of employers don't realize that in Latino culture, family is everything.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
it's everything. I mean, we sacrifice a lot for
yes,
family, and we do it willingly, lovingly, right? And just it's just part of the dynamics, right?
Yes.
Within our culture. But also, whoever is close to us or within our surroundings, including an employer, right, that demonstrates that they care and become like familia, right, will have our loyalty till the end.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
once you develop that level of trust, it's like those workers, that workforce is going to have your back, right?
Yes.
All the time, every day, and run that extra mile because you showed up for them, right? In a special way, and embraced, right? And understood their needs, right? And tried to help mitigate that to give them an opportunity. Anyway, I mean that's a whole
That's
other show,
it.
right? But
Yes.
it
Yeah.
just made me think about what you just said
Yes.
about that they
That's
will
true.
stay, right? Yeah.
Yes.
What has
That's
your been
true.
your experience with that? Is there anything that have you seen that also in the work that you've been doing with the app?
Absolutely. So what happens is that construction workers, they have, shared with us that when they have said, just they trying to ask us, ¿cómo está tu familia? Or ¿cómo estás? That that is something else, because that, it shows their real interest in us, and we feel appreciated, and we know this is not new. Companies, there is all this research that a higher salary and a higher salary is not going to make a difference. But when you give people an award for their hard work, for all the things they've been doing, that's when things start to change. So it's the same thing for these people, right? They're like, when there's this connection, when they talk to us, and really with a real interest in us, in our families, in our culture, that's when it makes a big difference for us, because we know that this is legit, right? They're real. They really want to, they really want to help us. And so it makes them, like you have said, it makes them loyal, it makes them more, to feel more motivated, it makes them that they want to stay where they are, it makes them like even better the company they work for.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think it's more than evident, right? The how magnificent your work is, and
Okay.
the direct impact it has, right? On transforming lives, at saving lives, right? And also in terms of I think it's just like a no-brainer business proposition, right?
Yes.
So that's that.
Yes.
Tell me, because I'm not surprised at all that you won the Eureka Award for in the pitch competition. So I need the juicy details of
Yeah.
how that went
Absolutely.
down, what
Yeah.
happened, and how
Yeah.
did you feel when you learned that you took the prize?
Yeah, it was great. So here in Southern California, so I'm new here, as I said to you, moved from Birmingham, Alabama, to Southern California, and I wanted to connect. I wanted to get to know, more entrepreneurs and business people from this area. And I heard about this Eureka Fest, and I was like, okay. At first, I decided to apply just to attend, but then as soon as I learned that I could also apply to pitch, I was like, oh, this is going to be a great practice for me to just go up there, pitch my company, and see what happens. And to be honest, I did not know anything about the prize. I did not know anything, right? And so I just went up there, and I heard some, great presentations from, entrepreneurs and people around, I guess, the world. And then, when I pitch my company, I was surprised to see all these people supporting me, and and because it resonates, right? Because as you know, here in California, the majority of the people are from other countries, and so when I
Mm-hmm.
spoke that I'm doing this for immigrants, because I said this, and I wanted to highlight this. I'm not doing this just for Latin Americans or just for Mexicans. This is where, that's my background. That's where I studied. but at the end of the day, I'm doing this for immigrants in general because we all have the same issues, right? The language barriers. And so I said that, communicated that, but honestly, I did not expect that I was going to be the winner. And it's of course a great feeling. It's amazing. And so what has what the outcome of all of those things is that, for instance, I'm getting ready to attend Stanford University at the end of this week, because I'm going to be part of a group of entrepreneurs who are going to be taking this course from Stanford University, and especially for entrepreneurs, like I said. And I'm very excited because they're gonna help us, grow our company, and in a way that it's completely different. They have these connections with Silicon Valley and all these different
Yeah.
things, and especially designed for Latin American entrepreneurs. And
Yes.
so I'm just thrilled, super excited, getting things ready for that. So that's where we are.
This is just so amazing. And what does your family think?
Well, I share things like this with my dad, my mom, and
Yeah.
they're very excited that they pray for me all the time. I don't think they understand, like,
The
into like
magnitude,
the
right?
magnitude,
The yes,
to put it
yes.
into a
So,
context. But I tried, like my mom, she was like, "Oh, oh, like I just saw that you won this Eureka Fest. I'm sorry, I didn't really understand what it is about." And my mom, she can barely use Facebook or things like that. And I'm
yeah.
like, "Mom, like, no worries, no worries, it was just an event, pitch competition." And
Yeah.
she uses words and things of what I'm trying to do, and she's like, "Okay, well, I support you, I'm here for you." and
See?
so but it's amazing to have their support, right? And so
Yeah.
for the people who are listening, who are wondering, like, so where's your dad, what's happening with him? So he's back home, right? He's back home, he's retired. Not retired like pay retire, but he's
Yeah.
retired back in Mexico. And so I was just glad that the both of them are doing fine.
That is wonderful. I mean, this is just the beginning, Oscar. And you know it, right? But this is just a testament to, when you have an idea, ingenuity, right? And you have a skill.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
trust your gut and
Yes.
just keep at it, because if you know it's freaking awesome and great and that it's really going to have an impact, you just can't let it go, because I feel that that happens all too often, especially
Yeah.
with people of color, that they
Yes.
that they feel like, maybe not, like I don't have
Yes.
we don't have the resources. That's a given, right? But
Yes.
keep at
Yes.
it and find your tribe, find your people, talk about your ideas,
Yes.
because there's so many things that I feel go untapped, right, in
Yes.
terms of
Yes.
innovation, just because people are deflated or disheartened or just feel like, ay, Dios mío, it's just such a
Yes.
big mountain to climb, right?
Yes.
But you are like an example, right? Of perseverance, of just knowledge, of just knowing your stuff and knowing, figuring out how to apply it in real life so that people could understand it. Hence, I'm not surprised. I honestly was not surprised that you won that competition. And I'm so glad, because as a newbie in the West Coast, I'm sure you made a lot of friends. I could
Yes.
tell already pretty quickly,
Yes. I
right?
have. I have. I think you know it's important to say this, because we always hear in a way, some sort of like the Cinderella story, right? Oh, like, oh,
Hmm.
all these amazing things and so on. So, and I want to share with your audience that I almost, or we, because my wife, my two kids, uh, we almost became homeless here in California during the pandemic, because
Hmm.
we had recently moved here, and so nobody was buying anything in the construction industry. But I had this passion. I had this purpose, I knew that what I was trying to solve, the problem I was trying to solve, was a real problem, and so that kept me through all of these storms and issues and things, and and thanks to God, I was able to pull it off and be able to last year start making traction and connections with construction companies and things like that. But if it was just something that I was trying to do for the money, it was just if I was just trying to do it for because I want to be famous, uh, I would have given up years ago, or months ago. I would have been like, no, this is too hard, not for me. I don't want to do this. So it was very tough. It was very, very tough. But again, like I said, you really have to have a real purpose, a real passion, something you really care about. Because if you have those ingredients, when the hard times come, because they're gonna come, you're gonna be able to go through that and be I guess succeed. I'm not saying that I'm successful, but succeed and continue to move on and continue with your professional life and your life in a way that you feel fulfilled, that you feel that you're really contributing to this world, that you're making a difference. And there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are successful because you're reaching that, right? That
Thank
that to you is the definition of success, and you need to claim
Yes,
that. Mi
yes,
hermano,
yes.
porque yo estoy bien orgullosa de ti. I'm
Muchas gracias.
so proud of you. Oh my God, I can't even take it. Listen,
Thank
this has been. I'm so excited. I'm so honored that I have like a front row seat, because we connected 2 years ago. So I'm like, ay Dios mío,
you.
what's next? And I'm so excited, and just know that I'm in your corner,
Thank
and cheering you on. And I'm like delighted, at what the future holds for you, Oscar. Like really,
thank you.
and thank you to your wife too. Dios mío,
Absolutely.
for being patient, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. My wife, it's amazing. She's really the rock. And during my hardships and difficult times, if it weren't for her, I don't think I'll be here. To be honest, she's amazing. And no, thank you for saying that. I need to recognize all of her hard work and patience. Because it requires a lot of patience and again, it's not easy. Good things in this world are not easy. And no, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for all of your support. I just can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you, Oscar. And I'm sure we're going to be talking soon. Okay, listen,
We
have a
will.
great rest of the week and go get them. Just do
Yes.
this thing, okay? We're
Good.
counting on you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me once again. I appreciate it.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.